Hello, welcome along to episode 4 of the Tasting Hour. I'm Jason.
I'm Gary.
This month, that's terrible.
Yeah.
This month, we're have a very special interview with Trident Military Cigars. I think with Armistice coming up, obviously in November, it was a perfect time to do the interview with them, and they're discussing what their future plans is and the stuff they do with charities. But before we do that, it's all about cigars and, well, I say cigars. Somebody's not got the memo. Gary's got his pipe.
Well, yes, I did get the memo, but actually, I'll smoke one of their cigars after we've seen the interview, which will be a bit later on. I just thought, as Jason knows, that I've been smoking a pipe for a long time now, nearly 40 years. Well, actually, yes, it is over 40 years now. 1985, I started smoking a pipe. But actually, I bring my pipes along because it's also what we're about as well. It's all the things to do with certainly pipe smoking and as well as cigar smoking.
It's ringing the changes.
Yeah, it's ringing the changes in a different style of smoking. The oldest pipe I know of is in a smaller museum, pipe museum in Amsterdam, and it's 3,500 years old, found in an untouched Mayan grave or one of the Central American states, untouched. There's this little clay pipe.
It's
And so smoking is a long way back,
oh yeah.
no matter what the health officials say.
And on that note, I'm going for something you can see me unwrapping, which is the Leaf Maduro by Oscar. This has been one of my favourite New World cigars since I first tried it from you in 22.
Yeah, it'd be about that. It's been out about just over 3-4 years now. And I think that the last 4 years, as people has found out, that we've been finding out between the trade show we went to in May, the Summerfest where we met Rocky Patel, the amount of innovation and new stuff and new ideas coming through is seriously changing the way the cigar trade is operating, even in the New World.
Yeah, I think that's the thing I'm enjoying the most with New World cigars at the moment.
I mean, there's so much good stuff. It's putting some of the ones that have been around for the last 10 or 15 years.
It's making them disappear.
They will start to disappear. There's nothing wrong with them, but they're being overshadowed by lots of new ideas and interesting selections.
In fact, actually, that brings up a very good point. One of the questions that we got asked was, what do you think of Brickhouse? Well, Brickhouse is it's a cigar I've known about for 20 years, certainly 15 years. But it is a very old school New World cigar. It's a good smoke, but there are so many things that are better now that it's getting lost. People are going, no, that's not my palate anymore. This is better.
Yeah, I'd agree with you on that. It's an old style of cigar. There's absolutely no wrong. Its price band is well under £20 it's under £20 in this country, which for a 54 ring gauge 5-inch cigar is really good, because there are several variants of it. But there's lots of other new ones. We've tried a couple of the new Christophs that have come out. We've got the Floors from PDR, which are all in a similar price band. And these are much more interesting cigars.
They're the cigars that tell the story. They tell you a journey as you smoke them. And I think that's what a lot of cigar smokers especially really look for. Also something you get more with a pipe, because depending on what tobacco you're using, the pipe is quite a different journey on its own, I would say.
And each pipe is different.
Yes.
I've been smoking the pipe for over 40 years now. Get it right. I said it right the first time. And I've probably got about 22 different pipes. Some I smoke on a regular basis. Some are not that expensive. They're quite mediocre. This one is a one-off unique pipe in the sense that it's from a small manufacturer in Italy near Como, third generation family. I don't smoke it very often, as you asked me earlier on. No, because it's. I'll let the camera look at it, Kerry. Luckily, you'll be able to pick up on the way the grain is working. It's literally hand carved. It's got its own unique mouthpiece to it. 10 years ago, it would have been on sale in a shop for about £400. This has been made by somebody who knows how to work their wood. It's where most of my other pipes are straightforward, good, honest pipes, and from some decent companies. And there are some of them which are a bit, they do a job.
Yeah, it's very much, funny enough, like cigars. There are some cigars that you know you're going to enjoy, like this, the Leaf Maduro, whereas, as you say, the Brick House just does its job. And it's as simple as that. Right, I'm also pairing my cigar today, to start with anyway, is the Sexton's Irish Whiskey. I really like this one. It's funny, although it isn't a peated whiskey, it does have a hint of smoke with it. I think it's the way when basically it's the char in the barrels, and it just gives it a lovely sweet sort of aftertaste. But let's not avoid the question, Gary. £400 on a pipe.
Quite cheap, really.
Actually, I can't say that's a bad thing considering what I've spent on cigars over the years. I really have no place to stand.
Yeah, but my first pipe, which I still got at home, is now 40 years old.
How often do you use that?
Very rarely, because it's actually a straight pipe, and I'm what they call a bent pipe smoker. Something between different and straight we'll come to later on, and it's got nothing to do with sexuality at all. It's about the shape of the pipe and how you smoke, or how your mouth reacts to smoking the pipe.
Something I think a lot of people don't understand, you smoke a pipe once, and then you let the bowl cool down. You can't smoke it, empty it out, repack it, and relight it again. Because that will crack the bowl, if I'm right.
It can do that. There are elements with the pipe smoking that it's a piece of wood. So after you smoke the full bowl, you could in theory light it up again. But most of us wouldn't. You let them rest. It does the pipe good.
In a way, it's similar to aging cigars. We've talked about this, funny enough, because we've got the humidifier meter thing.
Yeah.
If cigars tend to, I don't want to know. If cigars are like a bit too moist, you have to dry box them.
Yep.
Because you have to get them back to the optimal point before you smoke it. And that's what you're trying to do with the bowls on the pipe. You're not rushing it, you're letting it settle back down.
The pipe should always smoulder. In that sense, even the cigar should not be burning fast.
No. If the cigar's burning fast and it's hot in your hands, then you are smoking too fast. I think on average you should be about every 45 seconds to a minute maximum between sort of puffs, just to keep the heat and the temperature and the balance of the smoke right, so you get the best flavour and it's not burning or feeling too cold. So it's that sweet spot you're looking for.
Yeah, exactly. And pipe tobacco is very much the same. I had a customer come in the other day and he says, well, it keeps going out. I said, yeah, it's supposed to. It's pipe tobacco.
Yeah. It's not
cigarette tobacco. It's not
that's
supposed to
exactly
burn.
the thing, isn't it?
And I went through that.
We've had this conversation so many times. Cigars and pipe tobacco, it's just purely the tobacco. There's no chemicals added.
Yep.
There's nothing with it. I mean, that's the beauty of it. So it will go out.
And in pipe tobacco, it's the way it's cut. Compared to cigarette tobacco, and this is actually it's ready rubbed, and it's got mixtures of grain tobacco. And on another program, I'll bring in several types, and we'll look at the different cuts. But it's rather like lighting your file. If you've got cigarette tobacco so thinly cut, it's great. I mean, if you need to make a fire going in at that wind, it's so thin, it'll like sphagnum mass, it'll light up immediately, and you'll get the logs going.
Sugar on fire.
And if you get to pipe tobacco, it's then slightly thicker. It then actually smokes longer because you've got more to try and get through. Yeah. And then you have a very different enhancement.
So that actually, funny enough, does lead us on to yet another question from a follower, which is it's a good question, and it actually does lead back to the show we did with Rocky.
Yep.
What are your views and thoughts on high-end top-shelf cigars? So the expensive stuff, essentially.
Well, if you really want to spend that amount of money on a cigar, which is then going to burn, go for it. For it better be rather good. But we both know what Rocky said in the interview.
Yeah.
And you
shouldn't spend more than $100 on a cigar. And I have to admit, when he said it, I was like, oh, I've spent so much more than that on cigars over the years. But he has a valid point.
Yeah, I mean, there are cigars now which are costing over £100, and they've really got to be very special. And I can think of a couple of ones that have been lurking around in the last few years, which I'm not sure that they're working on a kudos of a name rather than the quality of the product.
I'm gonna disagree.
Some of them.
I'm
you
gonna disagree.
know where I'm going on one of them.
Yeah, I'm disagreeing on one because I've been very lucky enough and I've smoked it. It was the Bahique 58. So not the regular production 52, 4 or 56, it was the 58. And it's a cigar I smoked to celebrate basically when I hit 35,000 followers over on TikTok. And that cigar did literally blow my mind. But the price tag, which I didn't pay, I hasten to add, it was a gift, it was extraordinarily high, and I could never justify it.
But you've been smoking cigars for a long time.
Yes.
You can justify yourself to that, like somebody enjoys a good glass of wine, and when I was in the trade, was dealing with good versions from the appropriate shippers for Pouilly-Montrachet and Meursault, and some of the higher end of the Bordeaux of some of the lower Bordeaux. You know, that's going to shallow the feet. If you've got the money, go and try it.
And that's actually,
but you need to have the experience. The average punter, which is who is out there,
if you're
unsure to spend that money, then he's probably right. He's going to be more than satisfied with a lot of stuff down.
If you're a new cigar smoker, I would never recommend anything like Bahiques, even Cohiba these days, because you'll get as much enjoyment out of that at the start of your smoking journey as you would with King Edwards. And that's terrible to say, because King Edwards are very much bulk, mass-produced cigars, if you can call it a cigar. But if you're new to it, you don't know what you're looking for, you don't know the difference.
No, you need
to be taught.
You haven't done the story, as we've heard from one or two of our things, and we feel it itself. You have to be on a journey with cigar. You have to have gone around the basic levels and moved your way up and find out what suits you, what suits that, what other people are out there. And at some point, when you're traveling abroad, you're asking the questions and hopefully they're giving you the right answers, and you can expand your knowledge of it. I know enough about cigars because I will buy, if I'm in Germany or in some other places, different cigars even from Nicaragua or that, because there are different selections that go to different countries.
Exactly. Very much depending on what their local climate is. Some cigars sit better in those areas.
And that's the same with wine. I've been lucky. I had a French partner quite a few years ago, and so I got to go up and down the Rhone Valley. I've stayed in Meursault and Pouilly-Montrachet, which was very exciting because having sold them in a hotel some 10 years either, to actually visit the place and see how agricultural villages they are.
Yeah, it takes it that full circle for you.
It takes it full circle, and you realise the intention of what the territory is dealing with, as much as any farmers around us here is dealing with. And that's something that all those people we've been talking to this year have all said, the growers and the manufacturers.
They've all made that same connection. And funny enough that you talk about wine, because we have basically, I was going to say Cigar 101, but technically it's a Wine 101 towards the end of the show with Guy Smith. He's going to be the interviewee for next month's show, but he's done a little 101 for us, which is basically it's going to be the start of a series of 101s that we're going to do, which is going to encompass basically everything from lighting your cigar, cutting your cigar, different wrappers on cigars. So stay tuned for those over the next coming months. But yeah, so there'll be an interesting one, a little 101 later on, where Guy basically talks you through how to sample wines. I was going to say whiskey then. Sample wine. So funny you should bring that up. That's really useful. Last question before we go off into the next thing. Alex, I hate you for this question. What Vitola cigar would you have? One cigar, what would it be for the rest of your life? Vitola size. Now that confused me, I will say.
Well, if I've got the translation right, that means what size of cigar would you like to smoke? That is actually difficult because you have to assume that you've got nothing else to do. If it's nothing else to go, a Toro would go down nicely all the time.
Ooh, I don't know. If it was down to the size, then it would have to be a double Corona. Partagas Lusitanos. That sort of size, or trying to think what else.
But the Cubans move their names around a lot.
Yeah,
I understand a Churchill is a 7-inch 47 ring gauge. That's what a Lusitano is. I have looked through the book. No. I have to, because when I was looking for long cigars to replace the Romeo and Juliet Churchills, which is the standard 7 inches, you suddenly find that a lot of these other names are actually the same cigar, but they've given it a different name.
They've given it a different name.
As, for example, the short Churchill is actually a Robusto.
Right, on that note, go off and watch our interview this month, which is from Nick from Trident Military Cigars. Personally, I think it's a great interview. I'm biased, I did it. So go off and watch that. We'll see you in about 20 minutes and we're going to discuss it. Yeah, see you in a bit.
See you in a bit.
Right, another interview for the Tasting Hour. This time I'm joined by Nick of Trident Military Cigars. Hello, Nick, and thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having us.
Let's jump straight into it. You're ex-military, still reservist, but you're now a cigar company as well.
Yeah.
How did that start?
So, a passion for cigars from a young age. My dad was allowed to smoke in the house at Christmas, so he had a cigar. So that's kind of where my part of cigars came from. And then when I joined the military, when I was paid go through training, with my pay I would go buy a Church King Edward's cigar, little one, and then from there, every 2 weeks I would buy one as an achievement thing, and I'd go through training, and then when I passed out of training, I had a Winston Churchill Wide Romeo and Juliet, which was, and that is my favourite cigar.
Is it because it reminds you of that time when you passed out and you progressed?
It does.
It's interesting how we tie certain cigars to particular moments in life. In terms of Trident Military Cigars, how long did it take you to come up with the idea before you actually were able to get it out onto the shelves, essentially?
So the idea came in 2019 with my business partner Hugh. We were both in a very small little cigar club in London on a rooftop, smoking away. The whole charity side and mental health side was kind of where that stemmed from. Both me and Hugh have had friends and colleagues do silly things and sadly take their life. So that conversation then went into how could we support charities better. And do the whole charity work, and then we kind of looked at the American they're pretty good with their apparel, coffee companies, hat companies. They do their charity, and then they give back through selling different items. And then we were kind of sat there and with cigars going, well, we really like cigars, and this is kind of our mental health awareness part, and then take that and a bit back, and that's where it started. So it started in 2019, however established in 2021.
So actually that's not too bad, 2 years. That actually shows an impressive and an interesting state of being. The objective and then objective achieved. You actually focused and got it done quick, because so many things take years and decades to get done. So the fact you got it done and you're now established and becoming quite well known, I believe.
We're grown very quickly. Each year we double in size for sales and charity contribution. So from starting back in 2021 to now, every year we've just doubled in size and doubled in commitment and double what we give to these charities, and still to this day every penny that's made in Trident Military Cigars goes back into reinvesting into the brand to push further
to have it expand a bit more.
Trips to Nicaragua to look at the next line that's coming out. There is another country that we are playing with, which will be a great one for next year, for 2026.
What charities have you picked and what made you choose them?
We have two charities. One is Combat Stress, so it's in the name, and deals with PTSD, mental health awareness, looks after individuals suffering with that part. And then the other charity is Scottish Little Soldiers, and they are a charity that is set up to support the children of bereaved of soldiers who've sadly passed, and it's not necessarily just in combat.
That's brilliant. Just changing the subject slightly, What cigars do you actually do as a brand? Because I believe you do a different cigar for each arm of the service.
So Trident means three-teethed fork in Latin, and Trident or tri-service in the Army, Navy, Air Force, and that's why we have the three services. So we have 3 cigars when we released, and we're like, damn. And instead of just releasing one, we've got to do 3. So we did a short Robusto for the RAF, and we called it the Few, dedicated to the 544 that gave their life in the Battle of Britain. The Bren for the Army, which is a Robusto, and the Bren is a machine gun that was actually designed in Czechoslovakia, and then us British being British, as we do, I don't think we said it was ours. And actually, the BR comes from Brno in Czechoslovakia, and EN from Enfield, London, putting together the Bren. So that's what that comes from. So that's the Army. And then a torpedo is our third of our core line. Has to be the Royal Navy.
I was just say that kind of makes sense. That one to be the Navy, doesn't it?
And we dedicated that one to HMS Warspite. So it's called the Warspite. This is actually the ship, and pictures from the ship. All of these photos are from the Imperial War Museum, and they allow us to use them on the boxes. So inside every box is something dedicated to the Army, Navy, and the Air Force. So the 3 sticks that we have, which is our core line. But yeah,
you are very much the military brand cigar, essentially, and you've been able to follow that through by doing that for all services. Are you thinking of doing any more in the future for the more specialised parts of the service?
We're smoking the Petit Panatella,
which is a Majoro, which is very interesting in such a small little cigar to have that leaf.
So it's a Panatella, obviously shortened, so it's a Petit Panatella. And it was kind of when the whole idea came of, right, let's create our 4th stick. I said to Hugh, my business partner, I want to go big. I don't think I want something.
You were thinking something Churchill size, or?
Was thinking more of a Toro, and I think maybe, or a Supreme. I can never get the thing. I always say it wrong. Is it Superior?
Oh. Is it the Celamonis? Is that the one you're thinking of, which is tapered at both ends?
Yes.
Yeah, the Celamonis. Partagas do a particularly nice one.
So I really wanted to go for something quite unique in that regard. And she was like, no, I'll wear this crap. So for the main part of the year...
He's got a point. I'll give him that.
A short stick. Yeah. So,
Actually, you're right. This time of year, that's a very good point. It's a perfect size stick. And it does go very well with coffee. You're here today because it is a Veteran Charity Family Day.
Yep. It's Black Bearing Ranch has organised the day. So there's Combat Clippers behind you, Hawk K9, the dog trading company. We've got then the Gibraltar Trading Company lads to my right, who make fantastic shorts. Kit Pest, who's a shop that sells military equipment. Salisbury, I think they are. And then Lockwood Smocks, a lad from the Guards Regiment, who's just jumped both feet in and started creating fantastic garments, and we've actually got some of their stuff that's in the tailors at the moment and being embroidered up, and so we'll have.
So your new merch essentially will be there.
It will be, and I think military brands, veterans supporting veterans.
I was going to say that actually emphasises exactly what you're talking about: military supporting military. So. The importance of doing this interview at the moment, of course, we've got Remembrance coming up very soon, which is why I asked you to do this interview.
Yeah.
How important do you think it is for us as a country to remember it?
So our brand is very much recalls history and the military, you learn a lot from your history and tactics and how battles were won, and that thing which has then shaped the British Army and British forces into what they are now. So history is a big thing for us. And one of the important parts, and I think, is written on the side of the cenotaph in London, and it's a sort of glorious dead, and remembering what the guys and girls did previous to us, and history-wise, where they were, what they did, for this country to make this country what it is, and the world what it is. And I think it wasn't just for Britain; it was a world war. And previous to that, all the other worlds, and I think wars, and which create and shape history. So history is a big part, and sadly, we with things going on currently, we are redoing what has happened previous, and we're not learning from our history.
It does seem that we are. You're condemned to repeat the mistakes if you don't learn from said mistakes.
Yeah.
And I do feel you're right there. I think it's more now important than it ever has been to remember what we've done in the past and why we did it.
It is, and I think, and sadly, because so many years have passed, and I think we've just done the 80th anniversary of the Battle of Britain. Them veterans are few and far beyond
so
now.
Many
and
of
I
them
think
are no longer with us to teach us.
Yeah, and I think, and for us to go, and I think, or have a family member to go, do you know what, and then tell them a story about
and
their
having
history.
that connection. I think that's the issue. We've lost the connection.
We have, and that's where we're kind of, sadly, the world's falling back into that whole genocidal and stupid wars over silly things. And sadly, every continent's got there is a war in every going on in every continent. We don't learn from our lessons from the past. So history is a massive thing. So remembrance is obviously it is a global thing for British forces, but remembering what's happened previous, and I think it's a remind you not to do again.
Yes.
And I think, but also remind you of the great things about your past. A particular one, and I think for me, is a guy called Keelan Turrington, who sadly passed in Iraq in 2003 with me. So that part is where you get to do the remembering, and you remember that part, and remember the people you served with. And they don't have to necessarily be in the military. No,
I mean, I've never served. If I'm honest, if I had my time over, I probably would. But then that's with my mentality that I have now.
Yeah.
When I was younger, clearly my mentality wasn't there. But I've learned as I've gone through time. I've got lots of friends who are service, ex-service, and I've listened to their stories, and I've just sat with them and smoked and drank and let them basically be and stop. Which is one of the things I think cigars are very good at. They do help mental health a lot more than people realise. I think it's the structure and the routine that's involved that makes you step down.
There is, and I think you mentioned it before, but there's more to that. The caring for a cigar. When you purchase it, the packaging it comes in, and I think you then put it into your humidor. You then look after it. You make sure that it's got the right hydration there, and I think it's not too high, it's not too cold, and I think there's not too much water. There's not too, and I think all them bits, that care and attention that you put into it, to then take it out of your humidor or the place where you store it, and then cut it. The way that you cut it, and I think the specific to the way that you like it, V-cut, straight cut, and I think the Cuban, which I knew of but didn't know the name, and that's what it was called, and then how the environment where you are, the place where you smoke it, the people who you smoke it with, and the drink that you enjoy it with, and the conversations you have, and that's what makes what I quite passionate about with that cigar side. And last night with the lads, all the vendors here, none of them was cigar smokers, and within an hour every single one of them had a cigar, and I explained it to them, and because we were having a great time round a fire, enjoying the company,
it's that camaraderie. You've built relationships out of that that you would never have got otherwise.
Banter, I don't think the banter and bullying, and I think you take
the forces, that'd be quite brutal banter.
I think, we are, like, there were some good bits of banter last night.
This is the question I ask everybody. Right, any cigar in history, with anybody in history? Who, what, and why? It's a difficult question.
I am a massive fan of the Winston Churchill White. I think from past, and I think that was my first proper expensive cigar that I purchased. So that would be my one. I think it's a great stick. It's constructed well, and it smokes, and it's glorious, and I think it's just perfect. Person of history. Now, being military, and I think it ended up being some crazy small German Austrian dude, and I think, there are better people, and I think, but that question would be tactics and history, and not the horrible stuff that happened, and but interesting character, and I think I would really like to go back to is probably Lord Nelson. British history wide, and I think very, very patriotic, and in the Navy, and I think where I was Army. But Lord Nelson, I think his travels around the world, and I think his stuff in Europe, and all of the battles that he fought in would be an interesting character to have a go with, because obviously tobacco and the Royal Navy are intertwined.
Yeah, they are. They're proper hand in hand. You can't separate them.
So, it would be interesting to know what he actually smoked, and find out if he was actually a smoker. Because there's no, I don't know of any information going back to Lord Nelson. I think smoking, and I think was he a pipe smoker, and I think was it cigars or so on, which would be really, really cool.
That'd be a good one to find out.
And then some of the command decisions, and I think because obviously, being on a boat, you are controlled by the sea and the wind. So how he managed to manoeuvre ships without radios, telephones, or communications flags, to manoeuvre all of that out to create what the other people to know what he was wanting would be a great one to have a chat with, and it'd also be really cool to find out what he was drinking on them boats.
A lot of rum.
Yeah,
a hell of a lot of rum.
But so it'd be cool to find out what was going on in that boat at the time, So I wouldn't take him from history,
but actually the implications of what was going on around him, just how much of an impact it was having.
The East India Company, and going all the way around, grabbing all the stuff that come back, the knowledge of what was going on with them. Funnily enough, it's the East India and a polo hippo on a pin. And I think I wouldn't want to bring him dead to here. I would like to go for me back in time and sit on a ship and then have that conversation with him. That would be the better way, and I think not to bring him out of the grave and put him on a chair and him look at the world and go, God, things have changed.
Oh, I wouldn't like to know what that opinion would be, actually. that would be quite worrying. Right, well, thank you very much, Nick. I think that's good for us. Thank you for your time.
Cheers, and I think.
So that was Nick's interview. There's some interesting points there. Don't know how many people would have clocked who he originally was going to suggest as his cigar to smoke with, but I'm kind of glad he changed his mind. Although, from a strictly military point of view, I understand where he was thinking.
Yeah, I mean, I would have thought with a military person, he would have perhaps chosen a certain Frenchman.
Yeah, I have to admit, I thought Napoleon would have been a good choice.
Would have been a good choice. But Nelson, that's interesting. We had a little discussion. Would Nelson have smoked a cigar? I don't know if cigars are around, but then Nelson did get across to the Caribbean for quite a while during his career on one or two occasions. So it's possible. A good chance that cigars would have turned up, being the area that they're made.
Yeah. I think, almost certainly, he would probably have smoked a pipe. Because being on boats, that's the sort of environment sailors were always... You have that image in your head of sailors smoking pipes. Well, I do, I don't know.
I think the question then comes around what kind of pipe, because traditionally everybody digs up the clay ones. Well, they wouldn't last 2 minutes on there.
No.
But then there are types of pipe tobacco which relate to the seed because of the way tobacco is moved around. And the word flake, for example, is from the old fisherman, where you would buy a weight of tobacco. And then with your little knife, you then cut little flakes off and then rubbed it down and put it into the pipe. If you're not quite sure what I mean, we'll do a demonstration at some point.
Yep, that'll be another 101 at some point.
Because I do have a nice big piece of plug in it.
So we're going to try one of their cigars as we talk about the interview that we just watched. This is the Robusto. This is terrible, and I'm really sorry, Nick, but my brain's gone blank. I know this isn't the Navy. Not sure if this is the Army or the RAF. I think this is the RAF one that they do, which is the Robusto. It's got a very light smell to it. And on the dry draw, there's almost... Oh, that's bugging me. I know what that flavour reminds me of, but I can't put a word on it at the moment. So I'm going to light it up and see if I get it when I've lit the cigar. It's, I want to say almost a walnut.
Yep, I'll go with that.
Yeah, so it's like a walnut.
Yeah, pick up on the leaf on the second draw there. I think it's not coarse in the sense, but there is a sense that earthing note. Army might be that. I think it might be slightly lighter for the Air Force, but I could be totally wrong. Will no doubt be corrected very quickly.
Yeah, so Nick, drop a comment and tell us where we went wrong.
Yeah.
That was to me, I enjoyed that interview and I found it quite informative, especially on his views, because obviously, as we said before, this is the end of October, we've got Armistice coming up. His views there, where he was saying it's important for us to remember, I think that's something that people are not doing now.
I agree with you. I remember watching the programme when you sent it to me earlier on in the week. I would think that all the military is saying the same way. My personal opinion, and we don't want to create a whole disturbance because we could talk about it from that kind. Our history is being demonized as being awful, yet the country wouldn't be where it is without the history that happened taking place in the context of the time
it took place.
And we should be very proud of what we did and the way we've developed from those times. You can talk about empire, but as you know, I was born in Sri Lanka. They're not unhappy that the British were there. They're still using all those buildings and are happy to be doing so because it brought some stability to the country in that sense. And they're not unproud that they were part of the British Commonwealth at all. And I think it's even probably in quite a lot of places the same in India as well. Though India is different because it was already doing what it was for thousands of years, well before the British started an empire. And I think that's one of the things that we tend to... we're supposed to be embarrassed about our past. No, we need to know about our past. Nick is absolutely right. World goes around in circles.
Yes.
The First World War led to the Second World War because of mistakes made at Versailles. We seem to think because we survived 50 years without a world war, we've done a marvellous job. No, we're busy forgetting everything that caused the Second World War, and history repeats itself.
Yeah. If you don't remember your past, you're condemned to repeat it.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with remembering it. Learn from your mistakes.
You have to do history and learn the history. What is happening in Russia with Putin is no different to the Tsars. It's no different to it's in 1810 or 13 That's how Russia is, how it views the territories around it. Britain, because of its maritime, ended up with an empire and usually fighting the French after we dealt with the Spanish. And we used to happily meddle into Europe because we had the money to send an army.
Yeah, so we did.
One side or the other.
Yeah.
Usually the German side until the late 18th century. And we tend to forget that. And there are parts of Europe where, quite frankly, they don't like the English because we did that meddling.
Yeah. Which
There are other places which actually really like us.
exactly it. You're never going to win everybody over, and you shouldn't try. It's all right not to be liked by some people. It's all right to be offended. You're only offended. You're not going to die from being offended. So that's fine.
But why be offended? Somebody's spoken the truth about something. If you find it strange, then maybe it's a little bit too true about what you are.
Yeah.
In case, why don't you listen and then see if you can fix what's
Yeah.
that?
That's it. Anyway, we're going to stop there. So my second whiskey is another one that a friend of mine gave me, which is another Irish whiskey called Slane, I believe. Slane Irish whiskey. This is their triple cask. I'm not really drunk a lot of this. So that's what I'm going to pair this one with. The cigar, it's very light. Very light.
I found out when I smoked the slightly longer version the other day. It is actually, yes, it is a light cigar, in spite of its colour.
It's a very sweet cigar.
Yep, that's what I thought on the first one, and I just had to take the second.
It's like a proper sugary note, sweet. Tip of your tongue.
A beginner can smoke this.
Yeah, this is very much a good cigar to start with, actually. I quite like, they also do a Petit Panatella, which is a little tin of 5 they do. That has very much become a nice little morning cigar. Little morning cigar for me at the moment. And I have to admit, it's a bloody good little cigar, that. I would put that on a par, for me personally, with a Partagas D6. So it's got a real punch, and it's a real wake me up. I know they deliberately, their direct competition is the Davidoffs. I'm sorry to Davidoff, but that beats the Davidoff hands down for me. But it is a strong cigar. So if you're new to cigars, that's not one for you.
Definitely not. This is actually toned down since I've taken it out, since Jason left me one to smoke. And I like it.
I smoked the rest.
That's all right. I did the same with half of the Carrillos in another tin. But yes, that takes the late hour on in that style. It'll be interesting to see how it does smoke. I mean, the late hour, the little Petit Panatella that Davidoff do is, if you want a quick fix, if you like espresso in the morning, that's the espresso cigar. But it also works if you want a really nice little short smoke.
Changing it slightly, I was very impressed. Nick said their idea was 2019. They got it established and on sale by 21. There are not many companies, especially cigar companies, I know that have ever turned it around that fast.
There's a swift answer. It's called management. The discipline in the military is you're responsible for a large number of lives. So you have to be disciplined, you have to be on the move, your brain has to be thinking, because it's not only yourself in combat you're trying to keep alive, you're trying to keep alive the other 50 or 60 people around you. But that's two military guys who are used to organising things on scraps of paper, and it's going to get done.
Yes. The interesting thing as well, though, we learned this from Rocky's interview. When they're doing a new cigar, they go through about 160 different blends. Trident did the same thing with their cigars. So they went through 160 blends in 2 years and pinned down what they wanted. That's a lot of discipline. A hell of a lot of discipline. The retro house very light. There's a slight hint of pepper. Just a very slight.
Just getting a little bit. The initial sweetness is sort of wearing a little bit, but then we're getting down the cigar. I'm probably only about a quarter down now.
Yeah, I'm a centimetre in. And the sweetness is there, slightly, but it's very much a little bit of white pepper. It's not a strong black pepper, but it's an interesting little development from what I thought was going to be a very light cigar. It's not as light as the Torpedo one, which is the one you and I have both done before.
Yeah, that stays slightly sweet, slightly longer. It only got stronger as the tar came up, even with blowback. But this is pleasant. One could smoke these quite happily, 2 or 3 in a straight line.
Yeah, actually. Yeah, I'd agree with you. So
we also think that that's interesting because, but then we have found this year there's quite a few cigars that we smoke where we could happily smoke a couple of those in a straight line.
I love the fact that they're also giving back to the veteran community. The fact that they're doing, I believe it's 10% per box to charity, which is a lot actually on a markup of a box. And I think the Pelletella tins come in tins of 5, and £1 out of every tin goes off to the military charities. That's a hell of a commitment.
And that's a lot of what would be their profit. I mean, without sitting down and actually calculating what that is, £2 of cigars is quite a hefty chunk.
So I'm literally hats off to them. If you can, I mean, you can find them online. I will put a link on to their website on the description for this video. So go and check it out, basically. I have to admit, this is pairing very well with the Irish whiskey. There's a lovely sweetness in that that's just taking off that little bit of pepper, and it does balance it out very well.
There is some, I'm not picking up a lot. I'm still behind you on, I'm
catching
smoking up, but
yeah.
It's still going through, although I think my coffee's actually run out. There's a drag at the bottom, but it doesn't matter. We're currently, although we're in our Archway studio,
Yes.
we'll call that the Archway studio, as opposed to the garden, and it's late afternoon for us. And this is actually developing into a nice, strong smoke.
Actually, it
Without
really
being
is.
I mean,
It's flavored.
well-flavoured smoke.
It's actually got a decent amount of flavour. There's not a lot of strength to it, so you're not getting a head rush from the nicotine at all. It's just a good, robust, strong. That's just it. It's just a lovely, well-balanced little cigar. And for such a young company to have made that so quickly, says they do have a decent bit of knowledge between them about what works.
They do, and that's quite fascinating. Even neither of them be nowhere near my age by a long way.
No, Nick's younger than me.
I wasn't going down that far.
I feel old. I'm not, but yeah. Anyway, let's skip. But yeah, I'm genuinely impressed. So I'm very much looking forward to see what they're producing hopefully the years to come.
I think that'll be interesting to watch. I mean, he makes some, we've touched on it, some great comments about history. And history on tobacco at the moment seems to be going through a turbulent time, which I don't think, as Rocky's put out, it's not relevant. Cigarettes, probably. There is science in there. On the other one, this is very much a leisure activity. It's something for enjoyment.
Yeah.
It's something that we both do because when we're sitting down, we're being relaxed. We're detoxing our senses. We're de-stressing ourselves. And stress is a health issue.
Yeah.
It gives you mental problems. And the doctors are loving giving all kinds of antidepressants and all that, which didn't exist, for example, during the first two wars, where tobacco was given because it was
part of the ration.
A part of the ration. And although most of it was cigarettes, there were also a lot of old films where you see them smoking pipes all the time.
Yeah. Yeah, I always remember the old, that's why I was thinking about Nelson and the fact that did he smoke a pipe? It's entirely plausible because the amount of World War II films you see and the Americans are on the deck of their ships and they're smoking a pipe while they're working out what they're going to do next. It was just part of that ethos.
Yes, I mean, military does that. I think the contrast is you spend 90% of your time sitting around waiting for something to happen. Then it's
10 minutes of absolute panic. Whilst it's happening.
Action.
Yeah.
And got to be decisive action.
We have a little 101 coming up now with Gus. Gus Smith runs Smith & Evans Vineyards, which is a Langport Vineyards very close to us in Somerset. Have a look. This is how to taste wine.
So wine tasting with Guy Smith. Normally when I open a bottle of wine, I just pour it into a glass and drink it. But at various points in my career, I've been employed just to taste wine, to evaluate it. And sometimes it's huge quantities. So you'll have a tank of 100,000 litres and you'd have to evaluate it to decide if it's good enough to be shipped or what prices to charge. And so the way we used to do it is the first thing, if you put a bit into the glass, is to look at it. And generally, white wines get darker as they get older. Red wines get lighter. This one, confusingly, is a rosé. So the first thing you notice about it is it's completely clear, it's clean. This one does actually have a natural sediment because it's a natural wine, so it's not been pasteurized, so to speak. If you look at it, it's completely clear. And young wines, that is very hard to see. On the rims of young wines, they're sort of water white. And older wines, the colour tends to go out further. So you can see with this is a pretty young wine. It's a 2023. So you can tell something about the wine or in fact, before you drink it. And if you swirl it around, they call it the tears or the legs. You can't see this on this glass because it hasn't got any, which means it's got no sugar. So wines with a lot of sugar or very extracted wines have these sort of tears that come down. If the tears fall down quickly, this is a tip, it means it's had added sugar generally. So quite often you could say this when I was tasting wine for work. I say, oh, you've added some sugar to this. And they'd be amazed. It's because these tears come down quickly. So this is a dry wine. It's a young wine. And then you swirl it around a bit and give it one good sniff. And this is lovely. It smells of cherries to me. So I think the best thing is also quite often is to say the first thing that comes into your mind. In fact, it's a very specific thing that came into my mind with this, which was cherry tunes. So you have to be an English person of a certain age to remember that tunes were like cough sweets in the 1970s. That smells like cherry tunes to me. And then when you taste it, you have to slurp it. Well, you don't have to, but this is what we did at work. So I don't know if you've ever seen film of tea tasters. And tea tasters have these little cups and spoons, they slurp it. And the reason for that is because in your mouth, all you taste is salt, sweet, bitter, and umami, and acid and sour. And so they're basic things, but where you have all the interesting flavors is in something called the olfactory nerve, which is in between your mouth and your nose. So if you slurp it, it becomes a vapor. I wouldn't recommend doing it with whiskey necessarily because it's quite painful. And sparkling wine is quite funny because it goes up your nose. But if you just slurp it, you just get more flavors. And so if I swirl this around, and then of course when I was working, I wouldn't swallow it, I'd spit it out. If you're tasting 50, after the 50th wine, you'd just be so drunk you'd love it. But and then just describing the flavour. So this is a completely dry wine. It's fermented completely dry. It's really quite long. It's got a lot of depth to it. Oh God, I love it. Well, I made it, so this is completely biased, so don't listen to what I'm saying. But yeah, it's a very natural wine. It's a sort of wine that actually would be quite good with food as well. It's got quite a lot of body to it, which I think is something you get from these wild ferments rather than using commercial yeasts. And so that's how we tasted wine for work. And you do get more if you go through that whole process, but normally we just open it and drink it. Cheers.
So there you go. There's Guy's little 101. He's also the interviewee for our next podcast next month, so you're going to have to stay tuned for that. The usual, don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe and all that stuff for us, please. It does help. Couple of final thoughts. The cigar, I'm genuinely impressed.
So am I. This has got a nice sense of strength to it coming down, more than I did. I smoked the other one that you gave to me last Saturday, and it's slightly weaker. This is stronger, but this is a nice smoke. This would make a nice after-dinner cigar.
Very much so.
And there's no pretentiousness to it.
Yeah, it's a good, solid smoke. And at the price point they're putting it at, they're onto a winner, I think. Going to the 101, just to wrap up, that was a very interesting thing I thought about what Guy was saying with the legs of the wine, that there's no oily effect on the glass, whereas there's no sugar added to it.
Yeah, I must admit, when I watched the 101, I learnt quite a bit anyway, because you don't often get to hear somebody talking about the wine in quite the way that he did. Yes, that's interesting, because you then question, does that mean it goes into whiskey? And my comment back to you is that all products, grape has a lot of natural sugar in it. So if you're leaving yourself with a sense of sweetness, you're going to have those runs down it. If there's no run, you've got a dry white wine. And a lot of the, that was almost a rosé that he was presenting, is going to be on the drier side for that rosé. It's all about then the colouring is basically from how long they've left the leaves in before they've moved the wine on. And then you thought about the whiskies, have they got sugar in? Well, there will be sugar because alcohol is a sugar product.
Yeah.
Definition, derivative of what you do with sugar. And even the barley and the things will have a natural sugar content. And so will the sherry barrels.
Yes.
So the Scottish whiskey is made in. So there should be something like that. So there will be some, depending what kind of go through. So for example, I think if you were to test, let's say, a tomatin, which tends to be slightly drier, or Deanston, which is a pale yellow colour, which probably reflects on the barrels they're using, compared to a Glenanachie, which we know is sweet, we should see a difference.
But we'll have to do that. We'll have to do a comparison on the next one. Right, I think that does wrap us up for this month's episode. Hope you've enjoyed it. Please do leave some comments. I do think Nick's interview was, actually so far, it's been one of my favourites. And we will catch you on the next episode.
Yeah, look forward to seeing you then. Bye.